Hello and welcome to the VA Home Loan Podcast, exclusively brought to you by Real Estate Daily Magazine. I'm your host, Frank Ray, here with Mr. Michael Fisher. How's it going, Mike?
It's going great. Had a great Thanksgiving. I need to go on a diet for the next 6 months,
Yes,
but
of course.
feeling
Yes,
good.
of
That's
course.
big
You saw,
sweaters and
yeah,
sweatpants, right?
there you go. Yeah, you saw the memes. It was like, hey, in Thanksgiving, don't forget to set your scales back 15 pounds for the holidays, right? So yeah, I'm all up in that too. Hey, man, let's talk about this. This is a great one. A lot of people believe that there's a minimum FICO score for a VA loan. Michael Fisher, what is the minimum FICO, if that's true, for a VA loan?
Man, Frank, I've heard so many people say, well, you know, the VA or the VA says or VA this and that.
Yeah,
And holy cow, all these people that say that, they never actually read the VA guidelines. The VA doesn't actually give lenders a credit score. There's no minimum credit score in the
seriously.
VA handbook. Yeah, it's up there.
So,
Yeah,
okay. So there's no set minimum FICO score by VA
by VA. Yes.
for a VA home loan. So it's
This is where it
coming.
gets tricky. Gets tricky.
Hmm,
So the lenders have the goal. The lenders do make the rules,
yeah,
and lenders they do like to have a certain score. And so
yeah,
I think where the veteran gets confused and lenders and agents get confused is they'll talk to a lender that will tell them the VA has a minimum score, and they'll pick a score 580, 600, 620, 640 or what have you, and they'll pass that along as the VA's minimum score. And so that veteran will stop looking once they're told, well, you got to get your score up because you know this is the VA score. Well, the lenders actually make their own internal decisions to put these scores in place. And part of the reason from it is that the VA and the lenders, and they do want a certain level of credit history,
yeah.
especially in the last 12 months. And a lot of times when you get below a certain score, the odds of you having a good credit history in the last 12 months are not very good.
Right.
So you'll see a lot of lenders pick a line in the sand somewhere around 580, 600, 620, maybe even 640 because they know the chances of you having better credit in the last 12 months are much higher when you have those scores. And
I
so,
get it.
yeah, does
So
that
it,
make sense?
it does. So, but is a VA loan the type of loan? Well, let's say I don't have a low credit score. I just don't have a credit score, right? I don't have one. I've never used credit. I don't believe in it. I'm one of those people. I just don't have a score. VA's okay with that. VA's okay with that, right? They don't care. Do you see lenders working with that much or?
I think lenders prefer that to bad credit. Uh,
Yeah.
the challenge with no credit is that you still oftentimes have to either have another borrower with credit or you have to show what we like to call trade lines, like something that you pay on that may not show in your credit report. And one of the best ways to show you have good credit that might not show in your credit report would be like a rental history, a history of having a housing expense. It
Yeah.
doesn't always carry to the credit report, but you can build what they call alternative credit. The VA does allow that all day long.
Yeah.
So that's a case where, who you work with matters, knowing a lender that can kind of explain these things that might have access to more product, if you will, more
Yeah.
options with the VA home loan product at different scores or possibly with no score can make a big difference.
Well, ultimately, the lender, their big concern is that they get the VA guarantee on the file, right? So, God forbid something goes wrong down the road, right? VA is going to look into this and say, okay, we're going to honor that guarantee and we're going to make you whole, however the VA makes the lender whole. So, with that in mind, in the alternative credit angle. So you said rent. That would be obviously one. If there's a good rental history that the lender could document, put into the file, there's a great rental history here. What's some other things that they would valid? How about like my cell phone payment? I make that perfect every month. There's that,
Cell
right?
phone, utilities.
Car payment,
Mhm.
or no, that would be
Well,
on the
car
credit.
payment's
That'd be on the
trickier.
credit
Yeah,
report. So I was going to say car insurance, right? So car insurance payment. So most people do have recurring items that they have to pay on time, just to live. If it might not be something that reports to a credit report, but they've got things that they pay every month. So a veteran actually could go in and if they don't have a credit score, still get a VA home loan and probably still get a lender to say okay to that. If
Frank,
they
you
can,
just opened up a really important facet of the VA home loan that is actually it's addressed and specifically worded in the VA handbook. They call it the 26-7. There's a section right in there that says as long as the lender documents their decision making, the VA is unlikely to have an issue or take issue with the decision that the lender made.
hmm,
But the important key there, I've been to many VA trainings by the VA, they always say document. And sometimes they'll say it three times, document, document, document. Like if you can prove it in writing, then it must be so. So, like with the rent history, you got to somehow show it. You got to get a landlord to do a verification of rent or provide canceled checks. It's not just you writing a letter saying, I pay my rent on time.
right, right, yeah,
But the cool thing is the VA will back the lender if they put some good documents in there, and they'll allow us to do what we call in our world a manual underwrite. And man, as the years go by, I feel like it's a lost art. I feel like
yeah.
loan officers, we like the computer to tell us it's good.
I
And
know.
yeah, we can plug stuff into the computer, and if we do a good job and we match pay stubs up, and sometimes there's even AI to help us do that, and the
Yeah.
computer says approved, you're good. We feel good because we know the VA is going to agree with us. But the VA allows us to make these quote unquote manual decisions, manual underwrite, we call it in our world,
Mm.
as long as we can explain it and put some documents in there. So, yeah, we'll look at the cash flow, make sure that your housing expense isn't too high. We're going to look at, again, if you have bad credit, why you explained it, you documented it. And as long as you have documents, the VA isn't going to take a major issue with the decision that the lender makes. So, some lenders are real comfortable in that space, and some lenders are not. So, who you work with matters, asking questions, find folks that are able to at least point you to the truth. Truth of the matter might be, hey, I as a lender, we only go down to, for example, 620, and which isn't the case of success. We go lower than that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, that lender, if they're being truthful, they'd say, I've heard some lenders do go lower because the VA doesn't have a score. And if a
Mm.
lender's talking like that, they're at least being honest. They might even refer you to a friend of theirs that can go lower.
Right.
But I do find that a lot of veterans will come to us and say, "Well, I heard the VA said." And
Mm.
man, whenever I hear that, it's nails on a chalkboard, and I feel so bad for those vets because a lot of them could have been in houses, and sometimes they've been sitting there for 2 or 3 or 4 years watching the appreciation, trying to
Yeah.
get their
Run
score up to
away.
like
Yeah.
640,
Yeah.
because they had maybe like a one-time life event that nobody could walk through it. So,
Yeah.
man, it's important for agents to know this because sometimes they're in the front line. They're catching the folks that are afraid to talk to lenders because they don't want to share anything about their credit history, and they're tired of hearing no.
Yeah.
But man, as an agent, if you're finding those folks, get them to somebody that really helps and can explain what's accurate and not, and hopefully has a little bit more access to the products that might help them, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. So, for any agents that might be watching this, if you have any VA buyers who you were working with in the past and maybe something didn't go right, maybe had something to do with the credit situation or no credit or lower score or whatever, it does matter who you work with, right? And so, here at Real Estate Daily Magazine at the VA Home Loan Podcast, with myself and Michael Fisher, we are definitely connected to several VA home loan experts that could help in that regard. So there's either a link somewhere around here. If you're watching us on YouTube, there's a link where you can, in the description, that you can click on it, fill it out, say, hey, I need help with a VA buyer. Or if you're a veteran, do that as well. You need some help. You want to be looked at by a professional. Or if you're watching us on the magazine itself, there's probably a form down below you can just fill in and we'll connect you to someone. We don't sell your information to anybody. We will actually go, okay, you're in Atlanta, Georgia, no problem. We have an expert for you in Atlanta, Georgia. Here they are, right? And hand them off that way. So, okay, well, cool stuff, Mike. Yeah, there you go. Another
Can we
myth
say
busted.
officially? Yeah, myth busted. We need like
That's right.
a good tagline, myth busted.
Another myth
Oh man, just
busted.
remember if you're trying to help a vet or if you're a vet yourself that kind of caught part of this replay, the last 12 months is what's most important to the VA.
Mm,
The last 12-month history. So I mean, you had a blemish 18 months ago or what have you, and you're scared because the score hasn't crept up enough yet. If you've been good for the last 12, especially if you have housing history like rent. So
yeah. Good stuff. Great stuff, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you being here as always. And for the rest of you, do us a favor, man. Subscribe either on YouTube or to the magazine and share this. Go ahead and post it to your social sites and say, hey, if you're a veteran, need some help, give us a call, check this out. And who knows, maybe strum up some business with that. We'll get out of here. We'll be back here next time. The VA Home Loan Podcast brought to you exclusively by Real Estate Daily Magazine. We'll see you guys. Bye.